Tracy Chapman is a 4-time Grammy winner, awarded for her innovative storytelling and brooding vocals. With hit singles like Fast Car and Give Me One Reason, she led a successful career as a contemporary songwriter in the 80s and 90s. She has created a fan base through originality, compassion and honesty, which is what has made her work so admirable. Tracy Chapman was born on 30th of March 1964. Her life began in Cleveland, Ohio, raised mostly by her mother after her parents divorced when she was 4 years old. From a young age, she spent her time absorbed in words and music. Her first instrument was a ukulele that her mother gifted her with. She also frequently wrote poems and short stories even as a child. Although her family were not financially rich, they did have wealth and musical talent. Her mother especially encouraged Chapman. Chapman has expressed in the past that throughout her childhood she was often bullied and experienced racially motivated assaults. As she approached her high school years, she was given an academic scholarship to attend a high school in Connecticut and began playing in chapel services. As she settled into her life at boarding school, she also started performing in a coffee shop at the school, borrowing a guitar. Upon hearing this, her mother bought her a guitar before the school chaplain later organized a collection to buy her a new guitar. Graduating from high school, she moved to Massachusetts to study anthropology while learning her craft as a songwriter, integrating herself into the Boston folk scene. She was often found performing in coffee shops or in the university's campus folk club. After an appearance at Boston's Strand Theatre as the opening act for women's music pioneer Linda Tillery, she was introduced to a fellow student's father. He ran SBK Publishing and signed a deal with her in 1986. The following year, he would introduce her to the manager of Elektra Records, where he would help her sign a record deal. Something that became a trademark for Chapman's style was her approach to songwriting. The 80s was an era filled with electronic sounds of drum machines and synths, while Chapman was stripped back and raw. Much of her writing was centered around her own personal experiences and the lives she had witnessed growing up in a working-class community. Her lyrics were honest and passionate, which resonated with her fans. And whilst she doesn't have the vocal technique of other female artists in the industry, she does have an androgynous tone that is distinctive and unique. The vocal delivery is emotive and genuine, made even more heartfelt by her lyrical content. This won over Elektra Records. The label had a background in working with singer-songwriters, so they were a good match for Chapman. When she released her first debut in 1988, self-titled Tracy Chapman. Produced by David Kirschenbaum, the album was warmly received. It created so much interest that she set out on tour to build her fan base. Even though she was already garnering critical success, it wasn't until she performed in London that she reached a worldwide audience. She played as part of the Nelson Mandela 70th birthday tribute concert at Wembley. The performance was spontaneous and last minute, but allowed her to win over an audience of millions who were watching across the world as it was televised. A week later, she had become an international sensation as her album skyrocketed in the UK and the US. The original hope for the album was to sell 200,000 copies, but after her impactful TV debut, her sales soared to 10 million copies. Her signature single, Fast Car, rose to number 5 on the UK charts while landing at number 6 in the US. The follow-up single, Talkin' About a Revolution, also received critical acclaim. Despite it being her debut album, her success was highly rewarded. In 1989, Chapman was awarded 3 Grammys for Best Female Vocal Performer, Best Contemporary Folk Album, and Best New Artist. It wasn't long before Chapman began working on her next project, Crossroads, which was released in 1989. It received less commercial success than her debut, but she was co-producer on the project and dedicated Freedom Now to Nelson Mandela. Although the album went platinum, commercially it didn't reach the same heights as its predecessor, but she had by this time established herself as a respected songwriter. And this was partially because of her musical talents, but also because of her lyric writing. Tracy Chapman had addressed topics of racism, violence against women, and life living on welfare. Her perspective on the world only developed further on Crossroads, offering hope to the underprivileged. In 1999, she released her third album, Matters of the Heart, but her fan base had declined, only offering her a small but devoted audience. Her new songs had steered in a different direction, creating something more up-tempo with rock elements, which many of her fans struggled to connect with. However, she still used her music to stand up for what she believed in, tackling issues like gun violence and social hypocrisy. 3 years later, she would release New Beginnings, which put her back in the spotlight, selling 3 million copies. Once again, her lyrical emotion was at the core of the songs, this time challenging themes of change, growth, and rebirth with positivity and hope surrounding the album. The singles, Smoke and Ashes and Give Me One Reason, all garnered critical and commercial success, and Give Me One Reason brought home a 4th Grammy for Best Rock Song. Both throughout her music and away from it, she is socially and politically active and has acknowledged her feelings as a feminist. Her primary interests lay in human rights, and she has worked as an activist throughout her career, performing for several organizations as South Africa's anti-apartheid movement, children's charities, and AIDS Foundation and Circle of Life. Chapman has also been heavily involved in producing educational music videos for schools, highlighting the achievements in African American history. After her major success with New Beginnings, she continued creating and releasing a handful of albums like Telling Stories in 2000, along with Let It Rain and Where You Live. Supporting the release of Where You Live in 2005, she toured throughout the US before spending the rest of the year on tour in Europe. Her 8th studio album, Our Bright Future, was released in 2008. She embarked on another tour, this time solo, for 26 days around Europe. Her latest release was a Greatest Hits collection, which consists of 18 tracks featuring the live version of Benny King's Stand By Me that she had covered on The Late Show with David Letterman. More recently, however, she has kept herself out of the limelight. Tracy Chapman is an artist that possesses all of the best qualities of a songwriter. Emotionally, she resonates through her poetic stories of compassion and social justice, while creating memorable melodies with her rich vocals. Throughout her music career, she has provided hope for all of her listeners and will continue to do so for generations to come. You can check out the Carly of Spotify to listen to the original tracks of the artist. It's a curated playlist with the most popular songs.